for joining us for our second installation of Light on Leeds. Last week, of course, we had Alan Lane from Slung Low, and I went along to their new home, the Hallbeck, last Sunday to see We Can Time Travel. It was a great performance, and the Hallbeck itself is such a fantastic building. I'll urge you once more to go along and just get involved with any of the many great things that they've got going on down there. This week, our guest is Mick, a playwright, BBC Leeds Radio DJ and stand-up comedian. He tells us in this episode that he's not as prolific as he seems, but I think that that's quite a lot of false modesty. See what you think. Just a small warning, there is some swearing in this podcast. There'll be links to any of the events Nick mentions in the podcast notes. There'll be a little bit more waffle from me at the end of the interview and a chance for you lucky people to hear one of Jess Gardham's great songs, Rise Not Fall, recorded here at Dr. Shakamoto's. But for now, here's Nick. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. So welcome to our next episode of Light on Leeds. We've got a wonderful guest this week. It is Nick Ahad. Hiya, Nick.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for pronouncing my surname sort of correctly.
Well, I did watch a little bit, did a little bit of research to make sure that I did that correctly. I couldn't quite do the throat noise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think it would be a good opening if I spat in your face when we first met.
That makes no sense to anyone. It's a thing that I do in my stand-up. I say that it's been mispronounced. Yeah. We can come to that. Sorry,
we'll get to that bit. So, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and how long you've been in Leeds?
Okay. Well, I'm from Keighley, and I'm very proud to be from Keighley.
Of course.
And I live in Bradford now.
Right.
But a lot of my work is in Leeds. I came back to Leeds in 2001. So, grew up in Keighley. In fact, I came to Leeds once when I was about 14 to buy an NWA T-shirt from HMV. And I remember arriving, and honestly, it was like I had never seen a metropolis like this in my life.
Really?
Me and John Bailey came in together. We got the train. And John warned me. He was saying, you've got to be careful because there's loads of scary people in Leeds. And he said, if anyone tries to, talk to you or anything, just pretend to be... He said, this is so weird. He said, pretend to be mad, just talk to yourself, and they'll leave you alone. So Leeds was this terrifying, scary place. So that was my only time that I came to Leeds before I came back in. So in 2001, I came back and I joined the Yorkshire Evening Post as a reporter. So I've been back in Leeds, I've been in Leeds since 2001.
Right, okay. And how do you feel about Leeds now? Do you think we've still got that scary atmosphere, or do you think things have calmed down a little bit?
I've been to London.
You've been to London now. Leeds is nothing.
Isn't that funny? I never thought about that. It was terrifying. I was from Keighley, for goodness sake, and Bradford was a really big city to me. So it was really quite a scary place. But no, now I do. Do I have a love? I do love Leeds. Yeah, I think I love the constituent parts of Leeds. I love the things that make it up. And now I've got amazing memories and sort of nights out where I don't have memories, but I know that if I had memories, they'd be very good ones.
That is always a good sign of a good night out, yeah. Well, I can remember I grew up in Malton, a little tiny town in between York and Scarborough.
North Yorkshire, right?
Yeah. And I came and did my work experience at Sixth Form in Leeds with a solicitor, actually. It was fantastic. And all my school friends said to me, be really careful when you go to Leeds. They take your trainers by knife point.
I'd heard that.
Isn't it strange?
Do they still do that? Do we do that?
It never happened to me. I've never heard it actually happen to anyone. It's just one of those stories that get bandied around. So can you tell me a little bit about what you're doing at the moment?
My people from the outside, it looks like I am... Well, first of all, it looks like I'm nuts, and it looks like I'm bouncing from one thing to another. So I'm not unaware that my career looks a bit weird from the outside. From the inside, it makes perfect sense, and it's a conversation I regularly have with one of my bosses. So I'm freelance, and you think, no bosses. Nonsense. I've got loads of bosses. So one of my bosses at BBC Radio Leeds, who I absolutely love to bits, she's the deputy editor. We regularly sit down, and I'll say to her, why am I not getting more shifts? Why have I not got a bigger show, etc., etc.? And she says, because you've got about 8 other careers. So at the minute, So I should have thought about this. I'm a writer. That's my main job. Most of my time is spent pissing about and not doing my jobs that I'm supposed to be doing. My main job is writing. I'm also a broadcaster, so I'm quite often on BBC Radio Leeds. I have my own show on BBC Radio Leeds, and I fill in a lot. And I seem to be doing a lot more kind of live presenting at the minute as well. So I'm hosting like the launch of the Lawrence Batley Theatre. The Lawrence Batley Theatre new season, I'm holding the launch for them. I'm interviewing Sally Wainwright on stage in Halifax next month sometime.
Excellent. So Sally Wainwright.
She wrote Happy Valley.
Yeah.
Gentleman Jack that's on at the minute.
That's right. I'm loving Gentleman Jack at the moment, yeah.
By the time this goes out, I might have watched it. I'm going to watch it. I'm a typical journalist. I leave everything to the last minute.
And do a big binge watch.
Exactly. So I will watch it. So I'm doing a lot of live presenting at the minute. I still write so I was, for 10 years, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, I was the arts editor at the Yorkshire Post. I think my title now is theatre correspondent at large.
Oh, right.
Well, it just means I don't go in the office, but I still write about theatre for the Yorkshire Post. And the kind of bone of contention at the minute is that because this is a hobby that I'm doing, the thing I'm about to say about, I'm a stand-up comedian, but I feel ridiculous even saying that because it's just a hobby. I just had my 1-year anniversary last Monday.
Really?
June the 3rd. My first ever gig was June the 3rd at the Wardrobe in Leeds. And I've been doing it a year and I've done 81 gigs.
81 in a year?
In my first year.
You are so prolific.
No, I'm not. I'm really, this is the biggest misconception about me. People say, oh, you're always so busy. I'm not. I'm the laziest person that you, honestly, you had the amazing Alan Lane on your show, the last episode. He's prolific. He's really busy. I am a lazy little bastard. I swear to God, I do. This afternoon, I've got a lot of work to do. I've gotten a deadline extension, so I need to go and work because I've spent my time just pissing about. And I'm not. It sounds like I do a lot of stuff, but I really don't. I mean, I don't know. I know that I do a lot of stuff, but I promise I'm dead lazy.
That gives us all some hope, doesn't it? So, out of all of the different hats that you wear, which one would you say that you enjoy the most?
Enjoy's a really good question. I can tell you what I hate the most. I hate writing. I fucking hate writing. And hopefully all writers will tell you this. What I love is having written something.
Yeah.
But in the process of writing, it's a nightmare. I wrote for Emmerdale for like a year and a half. And you know that's a proper writing job, and you can't mess around. And I still, at the end of when I finished every script, I'd look at it and go, I don't actually know how that script got written because all I've done is mess about.
So is it that you sort of leave it until the sort of last
it's
second?
partly that. I've got someone who you must have on your podcast at some point, the amazing Lisa Holdsworth.
Yes, I think I've got her contact details to get in
She's
touch
awesome. So she's got a brilliant play at the minute that's just smashing it called Black Teeth and a Brilliant Smile. She's written loads of TV. I applied to a BBC scheme back in 2012 and I got paired up with her as a mentor. And I said to her a couple of weeks ago, I said, the worst thing you ever said to me was that a lot of your writing gets done when you're not at your computer screen. And what she meant was, you'll be walking or watching telly and it's all percolating in the mind. And what she did was give me the perfect excuse to procrastinate. So I hate writing. I love I love it when I've finished writing.
The feeling of achievement when you've actually done it.
It's kind of that. It's more that thank God that thing's done. But I love the idea and when you start working on it and all that kind of thing. So no, I do actually love writing. I love when you get the idea and or if it's for a column, for example, for the Yorkshire Post. So I write a column every couple of weeks for the YP, and I love getting the idea. And then I actually really like writing them because I find them quite easy. I've been doing it 20 years, so. Yeah. So, I hate writing. No, I don't. I love writing. Stand-up comedy, I'm still a bit shit at stand-up.
I'm sure that's not true.
It's completely true. I die on my arse quite a lot. And because my stand-up's it's not punchline kind of jazz hands jokes. It's quite aggressive and in your face. So I can find myself dying on stage a lot. And
that doesn't put you off? That you sort of look at those experiences and learn from them?
I think what I've learned... So I'm now, I'd say, maybe 9 years into my writing career, and what I've learned is that you've got to be really bad at something in order to get good at it. Mm-hmm. And so I've kind of got my eye fixed on the fact that I think one day I'll be a good stand-up. And don't get me wrong, I have gigs where I have smashed it, and I have lovely gigs. But yeah, there are times when it doesn't go so well, and then it's horrible. It's really hard up there.
And do you think the bad ones stick in your mind more?
So much more. It's like bad reviews. I can quote you the text messages that I got when I started presenting on the radio that said how crap I was. And I'm really lucky. My show is very loved by the people that listen to it. So we get loads and loads of interaction, loads of texts and calls. People literally just ring up to say, "Tell Nick we're loving the show." And I totally forget them. And I remember the one text that I had 3 years ago that said, "You shit." The one thing that I really don't dislike ever is radio presenting.
Right.
I had no idea. Radio presenting came out of nowhere. And I've had my own show for about 5 years now, which means I've been presenting for about 6. Gosh, that's amazing. That came out of nowhere. I had no idea that I was going to do that, and I didn't know how much I'd love it.
Right.
I love being on the radio because you're just messing about, making yourself laugh. This is the best thing. There's no real audience. You've got a producer, and if you can make your producer laugh, that's it. And I love doing that.
Yeah, and then you create that sort of atmosphere, don't you, that people can tap into. Because I must just ask you, I must admit as well that I don't listen to your radio show. I will have a listen.
Rude, nobody does.
But I've been to loads of your plays just to even it out, which I've loved. But I did have, we have got a friend of the show who wrote in when she knew that you were coming on and asked me specifically to ask you, is it really your mother? Which, out of context, I did not understand, but she assured me that you would understand what that means.
So I'm mixed race. My dad's, well, for the purposes of my stand-up, my dad's a typical Asian father. My dad's Bangladeshi. My mum's white, working-class Keithley woman. And when I got the show, I knew that she'd resonate with the audiences. So it took me a while to convince my producers, but I got her on. And I just got her on for a few minutes to have a chat. And immediately the response was like people were texting, they loved her. And all she does is come on and just talk to me the way that she does.
Yeah.
And I knew she'd do that. I knew that she wouldn't be fazed by the radio. She'd just, she shouts at me. She calls me Nicholas. I get told off on radio. And she was a bus driver when she started doing it, coming on the radio. So she comes on and she tells me stories about what's happened on the buses, the same way that she does when I just go to her house for tea. And like I say, the response was quite something. So she became a regular guest on the show. Every now and then she co-presents with me. And the really funny thing is some people still believe that she's a producer or an actor. Like, we genuinely get texts saying, "Who is the actor that plays Nick's mum?" You're like, it's my mum. It's just my mum. And that's what we're like together.
So we can tell Catherine that categorically she is your mother.
She's absolutely my mother, yes.
So play-wise, what sort of things have you got coming up?
Coming up at the minute, so I've got 2 plays that are out touring at the minute. The first one to tell you about is called The Chef Show, and it was my first sort of, I hate to say, it's my first breakthrough play. It was probably so I'd left Emmerdale, it was maybe 4 years ago, about 3 years ago, I'd say. So a director called Stefan Escreet approached me and he said he was looking for a writer to work with for a concept that he had, which was a two-hander, so 2 actors playing all the characters in a busy Indian restaurant. And I said, well, my dad had a restaurant that he fired me from. It was called East India, Crossgates at Leeds. And I said, I think I'm the right person to write this play for you. So we started working together. And the genius idea behind the Chef Show is that every time it goes to anywhere, it gets a chef from the local curry house to cook on stage live.
Ah, I see.
Right, so the first line of the play is the smell of the onions as they hit the pan, and then the chef throws onions into the pan and they start to sizzle. And it's
fantastic.
just, so the audience can then smell the onions cooking. It's brilliant. But the really good thing about it is it's currently on its 3rd national tour. Each time it's toured, it's won a national award, for the performances, which is completely justified because the 2 guys in it, Rohit and Kamal, are brilliant. But it often plays as part of a rural touring scheme, which means it'll go to a place like Malton.
Oh, okay.
And I think it might have played Malton, actually. And so what you have are these villages that are predominantly white, apart from the takeaway.
Yes.
Right?
That's a good point.
So the only conversation that you find people have had in these villages with a brown person is when they go to the takeaway and they order chicken tikka masala. And that's it.
Yeah.
Right? So the beauty of the chef show is you have the script that I've written, and then maybe 3 times during the play, the actors stop and they interview the chef on stage. And what happens is the audience from Bassenthwaite in Cumbria or Malton in North Yorkshire hear the story of the chef for the first time. And when you hear the story of the man that's cooking your chicken tikka masala, he stops being a caricature or a stranger and he becomes someone who you know.
Yeah, that's just great.
And I love, for me, one of the reasons I'm a writer is this thing of stories connecting us. We start to see people as an emblem or a symbol of, immigrants coming here, or I won't use any racist language, but, that brown guy who's cooking my curry. I've seen my dad experience racist abuse in his own restaurant. I've had loads of it all my life. But the minute you see someone as a human, you can't do that anymore.
That's right.
And as kind of pretentious as it sounds, what we've genuinely found is that we leave those villages, we take the chef show in, the audiences meet the chef. You'll see at the end of the night, they're talking to the chef for the first time ever. Even though they've been going to this restaurant or takeaway for 10, 15 years, we leave and you leave behind a relationship. That's
great. So you're taking down that wall, aren't you? Instead of just passing over their order, and like you say, not thinking of that person as a person.
Yeah.
That's just great.
It sounds dead pretentious, but I've seen it happen.
And I think especially now in the current climate, I mean, I don't want to get too far into politics, but I have family members who, because they live in a small place, I think that does affect their worldview, really. Whereas, we've lived in Beeston for the last 15 years, and one of the things that I absolutely love about it is the fact that it is so multiculturally diverse, and everybody just rubs along together. You're all there, you're all living in the same place, you're all going to the same schools and the same shops, and there's just something really, I just find it really heartwarming and vibrant. The lady who lives across from me is from Afghanistan. She brought me some food last week to help her break the Eid fast, which I thought was just amazing. And she can barely speak any English, but it doesn't matter because we're communicating on a wider sort of human level.
Yeah. All this stuff about... So I've got a stand-up show that it sounds like it's about Jade Goody, but it's not. It's about Brexit and racism. And we talk about multiculturalism as a problem to solve, and you've just shown that it's not. Like the Afghanistani lady over the road bringing some food to break fast with you. Why is that? Why is that a problem? And that exists because of multiculturalism.
Yeah, exactly. And then I think as well, you're taking away this sort of mystique and this idea that people are somewhere because they have different practices than you. That's in some way wrong. And when you took into people's communities, I used to work at a primary school in Beeston that was 90% children who didn't speak English as a first language.
Right.
And that was fantastic because I think being in that school as a white person, I'd never really had any chance to sort of mix with anybody else from another culture. And then all of a sudden, because you're working in a community, and I would have mothers who would come in and ask me all sorts of things like, how do you cook a pizza? And, can I put raw chicken on a pizza? What's got asked? Right. Maybe you should cook it first. But, just being in that position where, people... you've got these Asian mothers who can mix with a white lady that they probably would never have done before. And I just think that's really important. And I think it really helps you understand other people. And you sort of feel a little bit, because of racism things, I did feel a little bit like I was an ambassador for, to show people, I'm a white person, I'm very polite and helpful, I'm approachable, you can come and ask me anything. And I think that's a really valuable experience that I've got from living in Leeds. And my son went to that school as well, and he was in the minority, being a white child. And I actually think that is a really brilliant experience for him as he's grown older, growing up on the other side of things.
Yeah. That's so interesting. I love that you've got. Do you know it's people? It's easy. You look on social media and you look at the rise of the far right, and I'm quite depressed about it all. I'm finding modern life quite hard. And like I said, with my comedy, it's aggressive because it's a response to the aggression that I'm seeing. And actually, seeing people like you. So we met because I instigated a conversation with you in private on Twitter.
That's right.
Because you'd said you'd picked up on something in one of my plays that people had been misinterpreting as racist. So I'm quite depressed at the minute at the way things are going. But actually, you give me optimism and hope for the future.
Oh, good.
And one thing I've got to tell you, right? So this was great. A lot of Asian people that I know responded to this when Prince George. Is he called George, the kid that what's her face and thingy
I try to care about these things, but I just can't.
Is it Wills and Kate? They've got a kid called George. I think that's right. I'm not George, a huge royalist. But there was a front page piece on the Daily Mail or something about how he's bilingual because he's got this Spanish nanny or something, and you go, you do know that all Asian kids are bilingual as well.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not. I should point that out.
Right.
I don't speak any Bengali for reasons, but most Asian kids are. We don't celebrate that. What the fuck? Just because he's a royal kid and he can speak 2 languages, so can most of us. Not me.
But also because his paid staff speak the other language. That has to be taken into account. This is not just children getting by. Yeah. Children who have to translate for their parents, which I think is a huge
a skill
burden as well for those children.
So I've got I don't really talk about family that much in public, but I've got I've got a younger sister who was born in Bangladesh. She's very young. She's like 7, and she came here when she was 3, and so she translates for her mum, and she is so bright. Like, she's so clever, this kid, and I am convinced it's in no small part due to the fact that she's working as a translator already at the age of 6.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, some of the kids that I came across, the concepts that they're having to grasp and things like that, and I just think it's such a fantastic skill that people don't take into account. And it's like whenever you meet, I've met all sorts of people and they might say to me, oh, I'm so sorry, they're Polish or whatever, I can't. My English is not so great, and I just always feel like saying to these people, don't apologise.
Yeah.
Because I know nothing. I don't know any, tiny smattering of French that I learned at school.
Yeah.
It's just not comparable.
Yeah.
I think you have to take into account, this whole thing with immigrants and things. These people are leaving their beautiful country, quite often ending up in Beeston, which I'm sure, the streets are definitely not paved with gold, and I bet sometimes they get here and just think, oh, what have I done? But there are financial reasons that might have come, they're sending all this money home to their family. I think these people are doing such a fantastic, great job. And it's okay for, especially English white people, I taught in Taiwan for 4 months last year. It was amazing. But, as an English white person, you really don't have to worry because you go to another country and people will bend over backwards to communicate with you.
Yeah. No, it's that whole thing of when, what's the difference between an immigrant and a, what do they call them, expat?
Yeah.
There's a few shades of melanin, isn't it? That's the answer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you've got your play.
Hang about. I've got to give you some dates, haven't I?
Yes. You do have to give me some
So the chef show is currently on tour. Okay. It's honestly June the 19th. It's Batley Hanging Heaton Cricket Club, which is very cool. And then it's coming to Bradford Lambro on June the 21st. Shall I be completely honest with you? Apparently, so we're selling out everywhere apart from Bradford.
Really?
I know, right? So one of the actors is from Bradford. I live in Bradford. It's about a curry house. How are we not selling in Bradford? I'm furious about that. So that's on the 21st of June, so go and see it in Bradford. And then, but for the Leeds people, we finish, so this is our 3rd national tour. We've won national awards on the first 2 tours. The director mentioned last week that he wants to put us up for another award this time. And our tour finishes on the 23rd of June at the amazing Holbeck.
Oh, well, it couldn't be more perfect.
Isn't that perfect? At 5 o'clock. So Slung Law are hosting us there.
And that is such a great venue. I went last week I've been to Slung Law when they were in the Arches. This is the first time I've been to the Holbeck, but what a great venue.
Yeah.
Just a perfect place, yeah. Doing such great things. But we'll definitely put links to all of these things in our notes.
Shall I mention my other play? Do you want me to talk about that? I'll do very briefly.
No.
So Micron, do you know Micron?
No.
They're such a beautiful company. Right, they're based in Marsden. Of course, Marsden. And they tour on a narrowboat. So there are 4 actors. They're all actor musicians. And they literally get on a narrowboat and they spend 5 months every year, 6 months, like the whole summer, touring via narrowboat. So they'll go, exactly, canals, and they'll pitch up at allotments, and they'll go to working men's clubs, and they'll go to pubs and cricket clubs. They'll go to some big theatres as well. And they perform 2 shows in rep every year. And I've known this company for years, and last year, they asked me to write a piece for them for this year. So I've written my first musical, which baffles me. I'm the least musical person. Oh, actually, so you mentioned Red Ladder earlier.
I did.
I was in Promised Land. Oh. So it was their massive hit back in 2012.
Right.
I was cast in this musical, and I said at the time, I'm delighted to have been cast in this, but I can't sing. And the musical director, Becky Owen, said, everyone can sing. And I went, yeah, but I can't sing. And she said, we're going to teach you everyone can sing. And I missed a rehearsal, and I went back and they'd cut all my songs. And I said, I told you I couldn't sing. So that's my level of musical expertise. So I've written a musical somehow. The musical is called Redcoats, and it's about Butlins. It's the history of Butlins.
Excellent.
And it's touring. So we opened in Marsden a few weeks back, and it's literally going all around the country at the minute, and it's back in Yorkshire in September, October time. But if you look at, I think it's www.micron.org.uk. I'll send you the link.
Yeah, we'll put it up so people.
But I'm dead chuffed. We only got 3 stars in The Guardian, but it was a nice review, and we got 4 stars in the Yorkshire Post today. And I'm dead chuffed with it. It's a lovely play.
So how did you get around? Did you have other people helping you with the songs for that then?
I just sang them, mate. No, we had this amazing music composer. Is that what they called these music people? We had an amazing composer called Bex Hughes, and so I wrote all the lyrics. What happened was I sat in my back bedroom and I sang these songs to myself.
Right.
And so I wrote down the lyrics, and Bex got in touch and she said, can you give me a guide of what you're thinking with these songs? And I emailed back and I said, fuck no, you're the composer, what are you on about? So what I ended up doing was, I sang the songs how they sounded in my head, and I WhatsApped them to her. And the first version she sent back, so the opening song is called Red. She sends back her version, and she says, I hope you don't mind, Nick, but I've kind of gone a different way. I was like, I told you, you're the composer. I told you I didn't want to sing these songs to you. I think she was doing it just to take the piss. So she's got 3 versions of me singing these songs that sound nothing like what you'll hear on stage. So that's how we did it. But I got humiliated by someone who knows what they're doing. But I wrote the lyrics.
Well, yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. And so what was the inspiration for that play?
So what happened was, so I met with Marianne, who is the artistic director. She asked me for a meeting last year. We met at what was then the West Yorkshire Playhouse, I think. And I said to her, why would I write for Micron? You have these lovely musicals about the NHS, and they did one about the suffragettes last year. They did one about youth hostels. I was like, I write about race and racism. And she'd seen my play Partition at the Playhouse, and basically she said she'd just, in the humour, so Partition was this play that I wrote. It's it was started as a radio play and it became a stage piece, and she just said she felt the humour in Partition would fit well with Micron. So I was like, yeah, I'm a writer for hire, of course I'll do it. But also I genuinely do love Micron, and they had a list of things. And one was cricket, and she was like, we seem to know that you like cricket. So I used to write a column in the Yorkshire Post about cricket, because I'm a crap cricketer as well. And they had pigeon fancying, a whole bunch of things. And at the top of the list was the word Butlins. And I said, obviously, I'm known in as much as I am known at all for writing about race and stuff. But actually, I went to Butlins Skegness 14 years in a row.
Perfect.
Because as well as being Asian, I'm also white working class. If you're white working class, you go to Butlins.
Of course, yeah, of course.
And so I have this real, Butlins massively informed who I am. I love Butlins so much. And so I spent the last year kind of revisiting the memories. I won the Bonnie Baby competition.
Excellent.
And I came second in the Picture of Health competition.
Picture of Health
It was totally a thing. I swear to God. There's pictures in the brochure of me with my my second place trophy of the Picture of Health in the Picture of Health competition. So yeah, Butlins is just as much as race and racism is something that interests me, Butlins is a total part of who I am. So writing that has been just a massive joy.
Oh, that's just lovely. And that's coming around to Yorkshire again shortly.
It's been in Yorkshire. I think we're going to be. We sold out at the Halifax Square Chapel. See, this is the beauty of Micron. So if anyone follows me on social media, I know you're sick of hearing me wang on about my plays. And I haven't done it as much with Redcoats because they sell out everywhere they go. And the only reason you do it is because I want people to come and buy tickets and come and see the stuff that all these amazing people work hard on.
Exactly. I think that's completely understandable. I'm having the same thing with trying to get the podcast out.
It's hard, isn't it?
It is, because you don't want to... Because I've got quite a nice following on social media anyway, and in general I'm very just silly memes, writing silly things, you know, and then all of a sudden you're in business mode.
Yeah.
And I think it can scare people a little bit.
I think people think you're a massive wanker. I know they do with me. I know they do with me.
Yeah.
Like, because my Facebook and my Twitter feed is full of, hey, come and buy tickets to see this. Hey, tune in to BBC Radio Leeds. And honestly, I look at it, I'm like, shut the fuck up.
You have to get stuff out there, you know, and this is the modern way. It's the way to get things out there.
My actual friends, I have very few proper close friends, I'm joking. But my best mate Ben is just like, I think he might have unfriended me on Facebook. It's like, I'm just sick of seeing you put reviews for your plays up and stuff. It's complete. I totally understand, but like I say to him, there is a huge amount of work that goes into this stuff, not just by me, by whole teams of people. And if I've got a way to communicate, can you go and buy tickets for this, and so that the amazing actors have got an audience to see it, I'm going to do that. Yeah,
I totally agree. Yeah, I'm with you there. Can I ask you, can you tell me something that you think is not so great about Leeds?
What's the thing that's not so great about Leeds? This is a hard one. I have been thinking about this. It depends if you want me to be serious or sarcastic.
I think it's completely up to you.
Okay. Right. At the risk of hipsters, like hipsters can fuck off, can't they? That's terrible. No, but do you know what? Right. So all my life, I have never been cool in my life ever. I came of age in the 90s when you were supposed to be swaggering and into Oasis, and I loved Kylie. True story. When I was 14, I turned up at Simon Wilkinson's party, his 14th birthday, and I was wearing a Kylie t-shirt, and this is 100% true, a Kylie t-shirt, and I had a 6-pack of Pepsi. And the door opened, and all the cool boys from school were there, and they were all smoking. I think they were smoking marijuana, and I think some of them had taken drugs. And I turned up with my little 6-pack of Pepsi. Like, I've never fit in. I've never been cool. And so when I see cool people, they just piss me off. And especially things like, I'll tell you what does irritate me. I'm quite a positive person, I promise I am. But cultural appropriation. When you see, the guy with dreads or some girl wearing a bindi, you think, what are you doing, man? Yeah. But I shouldn't be judgmental like that. And you know, I like going to some of the places that hipsters go. Well, no, there's nothing that annoys me about Leeds.
Well, that's good. That's fine.
What would have annoyed me a few years? Okay, so back in 2008-ish, something like that. I wrote a piece that I'm still dead proud of for the Yorkshire Post, and it was about the Brick Man.
The Brick Man.
Right, so it'll be nearly 25 years ago now, Anthony Gormley wanted to build the Brick Man. Okay?
I remember this.
You can see the maquette of it at Leeds City Art Gallery.
I've seen it, yeah.
Right, so it would have been something like a 50-foot tall brick man, and it was going to be built not far from, like, in the Holbeck area.
I think it was when they were making that South Bank.
Right, okay. So what would have happened was, as the train lines came into Leeds, there's a kind of a triangular patch of land where Anthony Gormley's Brickman would have stood, and the City Council blocked it. There was a bunch of people on the City Council that said, this is nonsense, it's going to cost too much money, why are we putting money into public art? But this is 25 years ago. So what happened was, Anthony Gormley said, fine, fuck you, went away, and he built the Angel of the North.
Right? I mean, we could have had something like that.
We really could. We really could. And what happened was, 25 years, I keep saying 25 years, it was probably a little bit longer than that. Time plays funny tricks on you, doesn't it? Because I wrote the article maybe 10 years ago. Anyway, point is, the people of Leeds said, we don't see the value of public culture, we don't see the value of public arts, and they didn't spend the money, and they rejected the Brick Man. It's a fascinating story if you look into it, and he went and made the Angel of the North, which reinvigorated the whole of the area up in, is it at Gateshead where it is, or south?
Yeah, it's Gateshead, yeah.
Right. So, culturally, it did massive things for that area. It's taken Leeds a really long time to understand the value of culture, because it's always felt to me, I mean, I became arts editor of the Yorkshire Post in 2004, and I felt like a lone voice quite a lot of the time, because we just didn't value culture. And I looked around and I thought, what it looks to me like is that the city's been built on finance, and yes, financially it's a great city and all that kind of thing, but it was soulless.
Yeah.
we didn't have we didn't have the appreciation that I think you need to have for a city to really live and breathe. Sheffield, I always found Sheffield a really interesting example because it felt like they cared about their culture.
They have a lot of street art and a lot of sort of public art that you can see everywhere in the city.
And you look at things like the Arctic Monkeys and Richard Hawley, all the incredible work coming out of the Crucible, and it felt to me that they just valued culture more than they do in Leeds. Now, I say all this in a not so negative way, because I think we've turned a corner.
Yeah.
I think East Street Arts have been really instrumental in that.
Really interesting.
There's a woman called Pippa Hale who's done huge amounts of work. She was very instrumental in the Tetley and making the Tetley an art space. So she was involved, I know, with East Street Arts in the early days. And she did things like, so Pippa, years ago, it will have been about 2006, Pippa felt like I stitched her up. It's a long story, but what happened was I was asked to go around with her. At Christmas time, she put a load of art in empty shop windows.
I saw some of that.
Right, okay. And I was asked to write an article by someone who I won't name, comparing the art to Christmas decorations. And the argument that I was supposed to make was the Christmas trees that have gone up around the city are just as much art as the stuff in the shop windows. Clearly nonsense. And Pippa thought I'd really stitched her up. Pippa, she's great, and I see her around, and she's fantastic. And she was instrumental in the Leeds Art Prize that brought some amazing art to Leeds. I don't know what's happened with that. So people like that, people like Alan Lane setting up Slung Law, people like Rod Dixon doing what he does at Red Ladder, the people who run Duke Studios. You look at Cafe 164 and the building there.
Yeah.
So what's happening is I think we're starting to experience the critical mass. And about 5, 6, 7 years ago, things started to really change. 6 or so years ago, James Brining arrived at the Leeds Playhouse, and he immediately had this vision of turning the building to face the city. And I think we've started to understand the power of culture and the value of culture. And even hipsters should have a place in that. So there you go. The thing I disliked about Leeds was that for the longest time we didn't appreciate culture, but now we do.
Yeah, which is great. And that's exactly what this podcast is all about. So can you tell me something that you think is particularly special about Leeds, that you love the most about Leeds?
Yeah, I think right now we're in a moment. As I wrote in my column for the Yorkshire Post a couple of weeks ago, I genuinely think we're in a moment. I think that what we have... I'll tell you what I think has happened. I'll tell you what I think. Shut up, knobhead. This is the problem with podcasts. You feel very self-important, like my opinions count for anything.
Well, we're doing that. That's why we've got you on.
Right, so we were supposed to get Capital of Culture in 2023, weren't we?
Yeah.
And when it looked like we were going to get that, a whole bunch of people worked together for the first time. And I went to a few meetings of the steering. There were loads of steering groups. There were people like really disparate people that you might not know about. So there's a woman called Anita Morris who runs a PR agency in Ilkley. What's that got to do with anything? She's brilliant. She's an incredibly connected person, and she was on one of those steering groups. Sharon Watson, who I think is one of the most inspirational women that I've ever met, who runs Phoenix Dance. She's the artistic director of Phoenix, right?
I've had the pleasure of meeting her, yeah.
She's lovely. So Sharon, and she's just done, I know she's been on the Claw Leadership, whatchamacallit. So Sharon Watson was in the room. You had Councillor Judith Blake in the room. You had James Brining in the room. Robin Hawkes, who people might not know, is the executive producer at the Leeds Playhouse. We poached him, I think, from the National Theatre, and he is a quiet, brilliant man working behind the scenes. Just like this, what happened was all these cultural people came together in Leeds and went, wow, look at what we can do together. We were bidding for Leeds Capital Culture 2023. It was 2023, wasn't it?
I think it was 2023, but I'll double check and we'll...
Whatever the year was. And then the bid fell through because... Well, frankly, why the fuck would Europe give us any money if we want to leave Europe?
Exactly.
I know that's quite a controversial thing for the former arts editor of the Yorkshire Post to say, and I've never said this publicly, but I'll nail my colours to the mast. Good on them. We can't leave and then still want money to be European Capital of Culture.
Yeah, exactly. You can't stick the fingers up and then ask for the money back.
And it's heartbreaking. It would have been amazing for the city, and I'm really sad that we didn't get it, but I 100% understand why that decision was taken. And I didn't... that's the first time I've said that publicly, because I didn't because I couldn't really say that. And, I was supposed to write some columns I wrote some very anodyne columns for the YP at the time. Because really, the party line is, we should have got the money. This is ridiculous. Brussels showing us again, nonsense. We said to Brussels. Anyway, that's that's the political thing. Here's what happened. We get the news that we're not going to be capital of culture, and all those people didn't go, oh, well, never mind, we've done all this work. Instead, we went, wow, look at what happens when we work together. And in 2023, or whatever the hell the year is that we're supposed to be getting it, there's going to be an arts programme anyway.
Yes, I love that idea.
Isn't that fantastic?
It is.
So, what was your question? You asked me, what did I like about Leeds?
What's your favourite thing about Leeds? What's the best thing about Leeds?
My favourite thing right now is this new energy that we have for... this new energy that we have and this new passion that we seem to have for culture that I've seen... was missing for the longest time. And like I said, I was banging my drum for ages about this, and it's really amazing to see all these voices. You doing this. Can I say where we are? I want to say
Dr.
where we are.
Yeah.
Do you know this? Like, I walked into the studio this morning, I was like, what is this place? It's extraordinary. And like, that's just because there's a bunch of people here who've gone, let's do something really cool in Leeds. We have this. We seem to have this confidence in what we can achieve culturally. Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna. And of course, the best thing about Leeds is Little Nick's Big Show on BBC Radio Leeds, and
that's the best thing.
God, I had no idea I had so many opinions. Genuinely, I feel like I want to shut up now.
No, you're fine. And then just one thing that I wanted to ask you was, we always ask our guests, is there anything that, even if you're a resident of Leeds, is there something that you know about that's like a little secret? So it can be a bar, a restaurant, or a walk, or, a museum, anything that you think people might not have heard about that you think they should go and check out.
Can I give you a list?
You can.
Okay, cool. So my wife's like way cooler than I am, and she takes me to things where I just feel, one, very uncool and quite old. But the Belgrave Music Hall.
I love that place.
Yeah, okay. Is that the one that has the roof garden?
It does, yeah. And they've got lots of live music on in there.
Yeah. So I've been to see quite a lot of rap gigs there. So I as well as Kylie, I did actually listen to a lot of gangster rap growing up, like Ice Cube and Ice-T and NWA and Snoop. Like, that's what I grew up with. So, but I kind of ossified, like, that's what rap sounds like to me. So she's taken me to see a lot of kind of cool new rap there. It was very good. So I like that place. I like Cafe 164, but I think most people know about that place. A place that people might not know about is the Albion Electric Warehouse. Now, I mentioned that, obviously, because my play was there, that Red Ladder produced. But they also did Mother Courage there.
They did.
Right. You saw that?
I didn't see Mother Courage.
Right.
That's when I was in Taiwan, because Rod had asked me to
Right,
get involved.
okay.
But I was like, it's quite far from me to go. It's like, I don't think you
commute.
can pay taxi fares from there. But yeah, I went to see Glory there,
Right.
the play that you wrote, which was
Yeah.
fantastic. But yeah, what a great venue.
It's just really cool.
And a great idea to be putting something in a place that you wouldn't expect to be seen culture.
And it was, the tricky thing was that, so I'm twice going to see Glory, I missed the turning, and I ended up going down the M and go, oh fuck, I missed my turning. So it's quite hard to find.
Yeah.
And that's why I mention it, because if you look it up, you will, I don't know how often Red Ladder are going to stage stuff there, but if you get the opportunity to see something there, do. I think the Holbeck. Do you think people know about the Holbeck yet?
I don't think they do yet. No.
Right. If you don't know Slung Low and the Holbeck, there is one thing I'm coming to, by the way. But if you don't know Slung Low and the Holbeck, you're missing out on one of the most special, most heartwarming, engaging, challenging places that you will find for work and for learning and for. It's really hard to talk about this stuff without it sounding worthy, but right, basically, you can go there and learn how to be a fire eater. You can go there tonight, I think, or tomorrow night, or Sunday. You can go there and watch some proper brilliant slam poetry. You can go there and learn how to cook. You can go there and get out of the cold. It's a place where... so Slung Low are a theatre company, but they're so much more than that. What they do is they run a college where you can go and you don't have to pay anything. You can learn how to do all kinds of things, from learning to be a scriptwriter to learning to make little documentaries. to fire eating, and they're redefining what theatre is. And I think, again, this is the most pretentious way of putting it, but I think it really sums it up. It's where you can go and connect with your own humanity and someone else's. It's the most extraordinary thing and the most beautiful thing that they've created in a working men's club in Holbeck called the Holbeck.
Yeah.
Just go. Just go.
Go along and just join in with anything.
And the thing that I bet nobody else will tell you about is this. Every Tuesday at the Verve, so do you know where Mojo's is?
Yes.
So down there you've got a strip of dirty bars. God, I had this night out in Mojo's when either I left or someone else left the Yorkshire Post, and I was dancing on tables at 4 a.m. It's fucking brilliant. But down there's another bar called the Verve, right? Sticky floor, stinks of piss, apart from in the toilets that smell of detergent. And they have a downstairs bar, and every Tuesday from 8 o'clock they have stand-up comedy, and it's free entry.
I did not know that.
It's not exactly an open mic. You have to apply, but if you fancy giving it a go, you apply. You'll have to wait a while, and you'll get on eventually. Last week, I was on with Lucy Beaumont. Lucy Beaumont won the BBC New Comedy Award. She's performed at the Apollo. She's been on telly.
She has.
She went to try out some new stuff.
Excellent.
And all through August, it's hosting the Fring.
The Fring. So is that like a play on the Fringe?
It's like the Fringe, but it's not people who didn't quite make the Fringe.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
It's run by a woman called Laurie Wheatley, who's a Canadian who lives in Leeds, and she's very cool. And you will see proper Fringe. Like I think I'm going to do my hour show there. But honestly, don't come for me. Come for some of the brilliant comedians you'll get to see there. Like Lucy Beaumont is a proper name.
Yeah, she's great.
She was performing to 12 people last week, and I was a bit disappointed because you can get probably 40 in there. But it's because it's a bit of a secret. People don't know about it.
Well, it's definitely a secret that we could share with everybody.
So the Verve every single Tuesday from 8 o'clock. I've compared it once now, which is really nice. But honestly, this isn't about me. You might see me every now and then, but you will see some proper cracking comedians, and you'll have a great night.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. We will definitely come along.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much for coming along.
Thank you.
Guest. It's been so lovely to speak to you.
I really feel like I've just banged on. I hope it's been all right.
Perfect guest. It's all about the content, and it's been content rich.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. See you soon.
See you soon. Thanks very much for having me.
Nick Ahad, what a brilliant guest. I'm looking forward to seeing Redcoats because that sounds awesome. And I'll definitely be going along to the stand-up night one of these Tuesdays at the Verve. A Leeds fact for you before we go our separate ways. Pablo Fank was the first black circus owner in Britain and is referenced in the Beatles song Being for the Benefit of Mr. Kite. He's buried in Woodhouse Cemetery in Leeds. That fact is courtesy of Mick McCann's informative and funny book How Leeds Changed the World. Stay tuned to hear Jess Gardham with Rise and Fall. This episode of Light on Leeds was recorded at Dr. Shakamoto's in Hunslet and was engineered by Jess Penn and produced by Will Gurry.
Standing with my head held high, yeah. I won't let this second pass.